Joining us now from Capitol Hill, Democratic Senator from New Hampshire and member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Shaheen. Senator, thanks for being with us.
Good morning.
I know you've been to Cairo recently, to Egypt. You've actually met with the now Vice President, Omar Suleiman, and I'm interested in your thoughts on his personality, his views, and his ability to lead Egypt.
Well, we were there last July, and he is a very charming man. He is obviously close to the military there, is in the know about what's going on with all of the military and intelligence forces. He was obviously very close to President Mubarak, so I found it very interesting that he had been named vice president. You know, one of the things that really struck me in that trip, as we visited both with Omar Suleiman, but also with civil society leaders, was how discouraged the civil society leaders were that we talked to about the prospects to have the repression lifted, to have more human rights provided to the people. And so I think what we're seeing is the result of those years of pin-up frustrations on the part of the people of Egypt.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Mike, obviously, the question is, what's next in Egypt and what do we do next? There's a really delicate balance, and if you listen to the experts who've been talking not only on this show but other in Washington throughout the past several days, a growing consensus seems to be that our White House would do best by saying little.
Well, we've had Richard Haas on this morning, Senator Daschle on this morning. Both indicated that less is more in terms of rhetoric in this situation. So, Senator, we won't even pursue that line of thought. We want more from you. What do you think, what's the clock with regard to what's happening on the streets of Cairo? Press Secretary Gibbs yesterday said now means now. What kind of a clock are we looking at in terms of transfer of power here? Is it days? Is it weeks? What do you think?
Well, I think it's not clear. And as we watched yesterday and saw the violent scenes from Cairo, it was very sad and disappointing to see that the peaceful demonstrations have really turned violent. And what that does in terms of the willingness of the president to take further action, to step down immediately, I think remains to be seen, because what seemed to be happening from the news reports was that the Mubarak forces had stepped in. There were reports that this was the result of a military and a Mubarak strategy to try and disperse the demonstrators. It wasn't successful. What we saw was violence. And I think the Egyptian people are making very clear what their feelings are.
Senator Shaheen, it's Willie Geist. When you returned last summer from Egypt, you called on President Mubarak to hold free and fair elections. Can you explain to American viewers just how unfree and unfair elections are there and the circumstances under which he is reelected every 6 years or so?
Well, it wasn't just when we returned. In our meetings that we had there, we also urged the Egyptian, the Mubarak regime to hold free and fair elections, to let in international observers. I mean, this to me is an example of just how closed their election process is and the willingness to share power. They even refused to allow in international election observers. Now, even in Belarus recently, international election observers were allowed in to watch the election process. So I think that's an indication of just how rigged the elections are.
No doubt about it. It's been rigged.
All right, Senator Shaheen, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you being on the show this morning.